Hi guys, welcome to my channel. This is the astrology for the month of November, and I am going to break down the energy very briefly for your sun and rising sign after a brief overview of what the month looks like. And I will break this video down into chapters so you can click on whichever sign you want to watch and go directly to that. However, I do want to mention that just watch the intro because that'll give you the understanding of what the energy of November is like, and I think that'll be of a great help when you go to your sun or rising sign. And I would recommend watching your rising sign and then your sun sign. So let's get started. And if I had to sum November up in one word, it would be a month of transformation. And that's because the month starts off with an extremely powerful new moon in the sign of Scorpio on November 4th. Now, there are a few things about this new moon that are very interesting. The first is that it is the first new moon in a few months where Saturn, Pluto, and Jupiter are direct. Last month, with the new moon in Libra, all these planets were retrograde, which means that this is a new moon that can really push us forward where we are headed. And the second thing about this new moon is that it's happening in the sign of Scorpio. So the Scorpio energy, the Scorpio themes will be with this new moon. And a new moon, generally speaking, is a point where we plant something or start something that we work on for the next lunar month. And this new moon in Scorpio is about starting things connected to the themes of Scorpio, and one of those themes is transformation. It's also the sign of renewal and healing. So this new moon is an important new moon that will really help us transform and bring in some forward movement that has really slowed down since April, because one by one the planets started to go retrograde since April, and last month on the new moon a lot of the energies were retrograde. So that's why this new moon is special, because these energies are out of retrograde now, direct, and it is about transformation. Now this new moon is happening at 12 degrees of Scorpio, so you can look at your chart, figure out where 12 degrees of Scorpio is, and that's where this change, this transformation is going to take place for you. So that's how we begin the month, with this energy of transformation and renewal, and it starts off with a lot of intensity. This new moon is not an easy one, but it doesn't mean it's not positive. I'll talk more about that in my new moon video, but it is a new moon that can feel very intense, but it will lead to positive things, positive transformation. Now, soon after that, on November 5th, we see a shift in energy. We see Venus entering the sign of Capricorn, where it will retrograde, and we see Mercury entering the sign of Scorpio. So that's a shift, right? Two energies are changing signs. We'll see a shift in energy. Let's talk about Venus first, and then we'll get to Mercury. Now, Venus was in Sag, right? Up until November 5th, it's in the sign of Sag, where the energy when it comes to the relationships in our life or the projects in our life is what? Playful, it's optimistic, it's fun-loving, Sagittarius. But now, as it enters Capricorn on November 5th, the energy will become serious. We'll be serious about our relationships, serious about our projects, committing to them, working towards them. So we'll see that shift happen, and this is the space where Venus will retrograde. Now, Venus retrogrades every 8 years in the same space. So we are seeing Venus retrograde in the sign of Capricorn after 8 years. The last time it retrograded in Capricorn was end December, beginning Jan. So this retrograde, which will happen in December, which is on top of Pluto, conjunct Pluto, that's how Venus begins its retrograde, will bring out themes from 2013 December, 2014 Jan, either as something for you to review or close out and move on from in a very complete manner. And the second thing, since the retrograde begins with a conjunction to Pluto, this Venus retrograde, which will happen towards the end of the year in December, will be a very transformative one, right? So those are important things, and November becomes important in that is because Venus is in Capricorn starting November, and from November 17th it will enter the area which it will cover during its retrograde. So pay special attention to your relationships and finances and how you feel about yourselves from November 17th, because that's the area that will come back up for review as well. So that's Venus retrograde, and a shift in how we approach our relationships and projects. And on the same day, we have Mercury changing signs after a long time. Mercury has spent a long time in Libra. It retrograded in Libra, and Mercury in Libra was a review about our relationships. It was also a retrograde that helped us transform Mercury things, our communication, thinking, routine, job, lifestyle, health, all these things. And finally, it's moved out of that zone. It's left Libra and now it's entered Scorpio. Now, this is a very different energy. Mercury rules our logical mind and communication. And in the sign of Libra, a lot of the work that we do with our logical mind and communication is about finding balance, is about relationships, and it's about weighing the pros and cons. But Scorpio is different. Mercury in Scorpio is an energy where we will be searching for the truth. We will be looking for answers with our logical mind in our communication. So we'll see this intensity starting November 5th when it comes to relationships, projects, and our thinking and communication. It's a very different energy from the month of October. And the next important thing happens on November 19th, and this is an eclipse, a full moon partial lunar eclipse in the sign of Taurus at 27 degrees. So look at the sign of Taurus, look at 27 degrees, and that's where the eclipse energy is going to impact you. And eclipses are karmic, right? And eclipses bring about fated events. And starting November 19th till the end of November, till December 4th, we will be in eclipse season. Now, this is a period of time where karmic events happen, fated events happen. So there's that energy as well. And another thing I want to mention is that the new moon in Scorpio will actually begin the karmic events. And that's because Scorpio is a karmic sign. So to sum it up, I would say till November 19th, even beyond, is all about karma. It's about transformation. It's about fated events, destined events. And the overarching theme of this month is transformation. And towards the end of the month, starting November 21st and then November 24th, both Sun and Mercury enter the sign of Sagittarius, which lifts up the energy slightly because Sagittarius is a very optimistic, fun-loving energy. So with the intensity of the eclipses in the backdrop starting November 19th, there is a certain lightness because the Sun and Mercury both enter the sign of Sagittarius. But overall speaking, this is a very intense month. A lot of Scorpio energy. Scorpio energy is about transformation. It's about transforming ourselves from the Scorpion into the rising Phoenix. It's about a spiritual transformation. And that's the month of November. And I'll keep it short and concise in this video. And now, really quick, I will go over what this month might mean for your rising sign, and then we'll look to close it out. So Aries, there's a lot of energy in your 8th house this month, and the 8th house is the house ruled by Scorpio. And this just means that this is a month where there can be a lot of transformation for you, more so than other signs, because Scorpio, as it is transformation, and then it's in your 8th house, which is Scorpio ruled house. So a lot of transformation for you this month, perhaps a lot of endings as well and beginnings as well. 8th house things, healing is also one of the things connected to the 8th house. So there's a lot of focus in the 8th house for you, and Venus will be entering the sign of Capricorn, which is your 10th house of business. So pay special attention to your business and career, especially from November 17th, because this is the area Venus will retrograde over, asking you to review these matters and work on them for some time. And towards the end of the month, Aries, the focus will shift towards your ninth house as the Sun and Mercury both move into your ninth house. And the ninth house is the house of higher wisdom and knowledge. So a lot of the focus will shift to that, from transformation, endings, and beginnings to higher wisdom, knowledge, foreign travel. And since the eclipse is happening at 27 degrees of Taurus, your second house is being highlighted as well, which is the house of finances. So finances are important this month and need to be looked at this month as well. So that's for you, Aries. Now moving on to Taurus. Taurus, this is an especially important month for you because the eclipse is happening in your sign, a karmic event in your sign. And Taurus, for you, the house that is really being highlighted is your seventh house of marriage, business partnerships, and legal issues. So that's the energy for you this month. A lot of focus on these things of marriage, legal relationships, legal issues, business partnerships, along with you, your identity, because the eclipse is in your first house. And towards the end of the month, the focus does shift into your eighth house of transformation, endings, and beginnings. So towards the end of the month, that work will begin as well as Mercury and the Sun make their way into the sign of Sagittarius. And Venus enters Capricorn this month, which is your ninth house. So pay special attention to your belief system, to knowledge, perhaps traveling abroad or a higher education degree, because these are the areas that Venus will bring up during its retrograde towards the end of the year. Now, Gemini, there's a lot of energy in your sixth house. So this month is all about focusing on your health, focusing on your job, on your diet, exercise, routine, figuring them out. And there's also the focus on the 12th house with the eclipse in your 12th house. And the 12th house is spirituality and closing out the past and subconscious mind. It's also the house that rules drugs, delusions, addictions, and depression. So these are the areas that are coming up for you. A very strong focus on health and habits and exercise and diet, along with a focus on perhaps your spirituality, your subconscious mind, closing out the past, and if drugs, delusions, addictions apply to you, then those as well. And towards the end of the month, Gemini, the focus will begin to shift to your seventh house with the Sun and Mercury moving into your seventh house of marriage, business partnerships, and legal issues. And Venus will enter Capricorn, which is your eighth house, on November 5th, and this is where it will retrograde. So pay special attention to transformations, to hidden things, to intimate relationships, with all eighth house things, because these are the areas that will come up during Venus retrograde for you towards the end of the year. Now, Cancer, a lot of energy this month is in your fifth house of children, love, romance, creativities, and having fun. So focus on those things this month. And the eclipse will also bring to light the 11th house of your authenticity, of your unique self, and your desires and wishes and hopes, and the organizations that you belong to. So pay attention to that as well. And Venus will enter the sign of Capricorn, which is your seventh house, Cancer. And Venus will retrograde at the end of the year. So the seventh house is the house of business partnerships, marriage, legal issues. So pay special attention to these areas of your life, because Venus will bring them up during its retrograde towards the end of the year. And Cancer, towards the end of the month, the focus does shift into your sixth house of health, job, diet, exercise, routine, lifestyle. So towards the end of the month, with the Sun and Mercury moving into your sixth house, this work will begin again, connected to your health, job, lifestyle, diet, routine, exercise. And Leo, there's a lot of energy in your fourth house this month, so pay special attention to your deepest emotions, to taking care of yourself, nourishing yourself, and perhaps focusing a little more on your closest friends and family. And the eclipse will be in your 10th house. So a lot of focus and energy is also in your 10th house of business and career, so pay special attention to that as well. And Venus entering the sign of Capricorn means it's going to be entering your 6th house. So the area that will come up for review when Venus retrogrades by the end of the year will incorporate health, job, lifestyle, routine, diet, exercise, all these things. And towards the end of the month, Leo, There's a lot of focus on your fifth house of creativity, children, love, romance, just having fun, as the Sun and Mercury enter the sign of Sagittarius. So that's the month for you, Leo. Now moving on to Virgo. Virgo, there's a lot of energy in your third house this month. So a lot of energy in your thinking, in your mind, in your communication, social media, perhaps something with your siblings or peer group or in your immediate environment. And the eclipse will be in your ninth house, Virgo. So pay special attention to your ninth house, and these are areas of higher education, wisdom, knowledge, foreign travel. So the eclipse will bring these things up for you. And Venus will enter Capricorn, which is your fifth house, Virgo. So what will come up for review for you towards the end of the year are matters connected to children, creativity, love, romance, hobbies, fun, pleasure. That's what's going to come up for you. And towards the end of the month, Virgo, the focus will begin to shift to your fourth house of nourishing yourself, taking care of yourself, your family, your friends, as the Sun and Mercury enter the sign of Sagittarius. Now moving on to Libra. Libra, a lot of energy in your second house, so a lot of focus on material possessions, on finances this month. And the eclipse will be in your eighth house, Libra. So a lot of energy in your eighth house as well, of endings, transformations, and beginnings. And Venus will enter Capricorn this month, which is your fourth house. So what you will need to review at the end of the year as Venus moves through the sign of Capricorn are matters connected to nourishing yourself, your family, your closest friends, your home. These are the things that Venus retrograde will bring up for you. And towards the end of the month, Libra, Sun and Mercury will enter the sign of Sagittarius, your third house. So towards the end of the month, the focus will begin to shift towards your thinking, your communication, social media, immediate environment, your siblings, things like that. Now moving on to Scorpio. Scorpio, this is a very, very important month for you. A lot of energy is in your sign this month, and a lot of focus on your first house of your identity, of who you are, how you present yourself to the world, how the world sees you, your appearance, your leadership, basically you. You are the focus of the month of November. And the eclipse will be in your seventh house. So there's also a focus on your marriage and business partnerships and legal issues this month. And towards the end of the month, Scorpio, we'll have the Sun and Mercury entering the sign of Sagittarius, your second house, shifting the focus in some ways to material possessions and finances. And we also have Venus entering Capricorn, which is your third house. So what will come up for review for you by the end of the year, Scorpio, are matters connected to the third house, your thinking, your communication, your siblings, social media. All these things are what Venus retrograde will bring up for you towards the end of the year. Now, Sag, a lot of energy in your 12th house. The 12th house is the house of spirituality, closing out the past. It's also the house of drugs and delusions and depression and addiction. So this is the area that's highlighted for you, Sagittarius. And the eclipse will be in your sixth house, highlighting matters connected to your health and diet and routine and job and lifestyle. So these are the two areas that are being highlighted for you this month. And towards the end of the month, Sag, the focus will begin to shift into your first house as the Sun and Mercury both enter your sign and start Sag season, right? So towards the end of the month, the focus will become you, from closing out the past, focusing on spirituality. It will transition or start to transition to you, your identity, who you are, the focus. And Venus will retrograde in your second house. Your second house is Capricorn. So what you need to pay attention to this month are your finances and material possessions, because that's what Venus retrograde will bring up for you towards the end of the year. Now moving on to Capricorn. There's a lot of energy in your 11th house, and 11th house is the social circle, the groups that you belong to, the organizations you're a part of, your hopes, goals, and dreams. But most importantly, Capricorn, the 11th house is your unique, authentic self. in this month, Capricorn, you need to focus on being your unique, authentic self, on your wishes, on your desires, on your goals. And the eclipse will be in your fifth house, highlighting matters connected to children, love, romance, creativity, having fun, that sort of stuff. And Venus is going to retrograde in your sign, so a lot of review when it comes to your identity, who you are, how you present yourself to the world, all that stuff. So pay special attention to those things. And by the end of the month, Mercury and Sun will enter the sign of Sagittarius, your 12th house, and the focus will begin to shift towards spirituality, closing out the past, drugs, delusions, addiction, depression, if that applies to you, Capricorn. Now moving on to Aquarius. Aquarius, a lot of energy in your 10th house of business and career, so that's the highlight for you this month, along with the eclipse in your 4th house. There's energy in your family, in nourishing yourself, in your closest friends as well. So these are the two areas that are really highlighted for you this month. Business on one hand, and taking care of yourself and being with family on the other. And Venus will retrograde in the sign of Capricorn, your 12th house. And that is what it will bring up for review by the end of the year, your 12th house of spirituality, closing out the past, your subconscious mind, drugs, delusions, addiction, depression, if those apply to you. So that's the month for you, Aquarius. And towards the end of the month, the focus will shift to your 11th house. And now towards the end of the month, you will begin to focus more on being your true authentic self, on your desires, on your goals, on your dreams, on what you want, as well as focusing on the groups that you belong to. And Pisces, there's a lot of energy in your 9th house this month. So a lot of focus on your belief system, what you believe in, a lot of focus on higher wisdom and knowledge, perhaps acquiring these things, a lot of focus on higher education and foreign travel. So that's what is being highlighted for you this month. And the eclipse is going to be happening in your 3rd house, highlighting your mind, your thinking, your communication, your social media. So these are the areas that are very powerfully highlighted for you this month, Pisces. And along with that, towards the end of the month, the focus will shift to your career and business, because Sun and Mercury will enter your 10th house. Sag is your 10th house. And Venus will retrograde in your 11th house. So you need to pay special attention to your unique self, who you truly are, and your hopes, goals, and dreams, the groups that you're a part of, because these are the themes Venus retrograde will bring up for you, since Capricorn is your 11th house, Pisces. So that sums it up for each sign. And November is a month where we will see some forward movement. It's a month where we can expect some transformation, whether that's a spiritual transformation or a transformation in a certain part of our life. And it can feel intense because the new moon is making stressful aspects. However, I believe that this new moon, through transformation, through its intensity, can really lead to positive things. So that's the month of November, an extremely transformative month where we can see forward movement. And I hope you guys enjoyed this reading, and I will see you in one of my other videos. Have a great month. Bye.